As many of you will undoubtedly remember, back in 2015 the University of Mizzou garnered significant attention, most notably for one of its own faculty members, who during a protest did this.
Hi media, can I talk to you?
No, you need to get out.
Well,
you need to get out.
No, I don't.
You need to get out.
I actually don't.
All right. Hey, who wants to help me get this reporter out of here? I need some muscle over here.
Quite a tolerant position to have, I know. Naturally, with this, there were many discussions had, certainly on the internet, about the place of a professor, and obviously a protest, or the place of a faculty member, to be more specific, with the case of Melissa Click. I think most of us can agree that when some people get involved in any kind of protest, if you work for the very establishment that you are protesting on the campus of, there will undoubtedly be a conflict of interest. Now, I'm sure, in the case of Melissa Click, they had indulged you for long enough. I say this because of what you had managed to do during your time with the papers you had released, some of which were, of course, of the highest quality, titles of which included Gendered Reaction to Twilight Fangirls, and Let's Hug It Out, Bitch, HBO's Entourage, Masculinity in Crisis and the Value of Audience Studies, with her angry reaction asking for muscle to essentially walk forward, pushing the person with the camera back, but not pushing them at the same time, which was quite sad. Melissa Click showed a level of bias. With this, she was suspended and then subsequently fired by the University of Mizzou, or Missouri to give its proper name. She, believe it or not, gave an interview discussing this incident, where she believes that the reason the university fired her is because the university and the state of Missouri wouldn't tolerate black people standing up to white people, which actually led to Miss Click not actually elaborating on how that would explain the termination of a white woman. I think she was put into a bit of a box there. With her being fired, she was also charged with assault. Now, they were eventually dropped when she agreed to perform 20 hours of community service, with a statement being released saying, while Miss Click acknowledges that she was certainly frustrated that day, she says she's simply trying to protect the black student protesters. Everything she's come to stand for since the video came out, intolerance, anger, mouthiness, and dismissiveness, is exactly the opposite of who she says she really is. Focusing on her behaviour, she says, is a way to take attention away from the demands of Concerned Student 1950, the group of protesters. Now, there is, of course, a wider fallout to all of this, one that affected the university itself. Understandably, if people see this in the papers, they see it being reported on, this absolute nonsense. The protesters protesting in a somewhat unseemly manner. There are more instances of it having taken place on the University of Missouri's campus. The fallout from this incident was that the university, after losing $32 million in its budget because of the drop in admissions, with a reduction of around 1,500 students trying to go there, they had to close 2 dorms. Now, I don't know about you, the viewer, but for me, money talks. If you lose any money, you're going to notice, and as many know, the purpose of a university is to make money. They're not publicly funded, fully anyway. They are privately owned, therefore, they serve a purpose, to make money. I know someone's going to pick at that and say, it's academic success that surely speaks, and you'd be right, if it was on a dollar bill or a pound note. And I know someone else is then going to say, pound note, how old are you? It's an old turn of phrase used in England. Shut the fuck up. That level of autism has no place here. It's almost like people who are engineers thinking they're better than a real scientist. Please. If those within the science field are dogs at a greyhound track, and they've just started racing, all the hard sciences are the cheaters refusing to lead the starting block, because they have nothing to prove. Anyway, with Mizzou, the fallout was that they lost lots of money, which should cause them, you would think, to take a moment and be a bit more considerate when it comes to, well, the turnaround. Well, you would all be wrong. Because, and this calls back to Title IX, which does not surprise me in the slightest, and is a damning statement for why this thing needs to be absolutely erased from existence. An official at Mizzou indicated during a deposition that a male student who was physically larger than the female student he asked out may have violated the school's Title IX policy because his physical size gave him power over her. Just how desperate are you to get rid of people that you would conjure up such absolute nonsense? How deluded are you? It's probably just like those engineers who think they're actual scientists, or in some cases think they're somewhere close to being a physicist. Congratulations, your autism is officially showing. Title IX, as many of you know, is the rule that states no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Which, on the face of it, doesn't sound like it's at all relevant to this particular case, but then you have to go down to the Campus Save Act of 2013, which is the Clary Act, and was designed to help colleges better protect their students and employees from sexual violence. It was designed as a companion to Title IX to bolster the responses to and prevent sexual violence in higher education. SAVE requires colleges to increase transparency about the scope of sexual violence. I feel like the word scope is correct, because the politically incorrect play on word for that would be spastic. Guarantee victims enhanced rights, provide for standards in institutional conduct proceedings, and provide campus community-wide prevention educational. Fantastic. As many of you know, there was a letter written by Obama which made it easier for campuses to prosecute those sexual offenders, or those perceived to have been a sex offender, on the grounds that the bar for what constituted a sex offender in wider society was lowered so as to better prosecute and then expel where needed. This led to the inevitable fallout of many people claiming they were unfairly expelled or treated unfairly and winning quite a significant amount of money. So Mizzou putting this statement out there has yet again raised awareness to just how flawed Title IX is, and how while university has that autonomy to prosecute in that way, I don't believe they should. I firmly believe that a university is not in and of itself its own nation state. It should not have the law to implement the law, under the guise of it having its own set that is weak to the point where no one should willingly want to go there, because it sounds less like a privilege, more like a trial. And I don't mean trial, judge, jury, executioner. I mean rite of passage, trial. If you can survive 3 to 5, maybe 6 to 8 years, depending on what you go to study and how far you go. Remember everyone, someone who does a postgraduate's degree is ever so slightly higher up the totem pole than an apprentice. Now back to Mizzou. When a Mizzou official was questioned regarding a case where a black male PhD candidate at the school asked out a white female fitness trainer, she bizarrely suggested that the fact that the male student was larger than the female student gave him power over her and violated school policy. Did she report him, the student that is? Because that is remarkable. Just how weak are you that the moment a man approaches you and asks you out, regardless of his race, you take it on face value as oppression. You do not do women any favours. You, the official, and those that reported the incident. In fact, you make women look like an even more delicate class. Now there is actually some context to this story, where the man asked her out, but as the time she was busy, but did discuss possibly going out with him later that month. 2 days later, she told him to stop making romantic advances towards her. Now, despite not wanting to date him, the girl continued to ask the man to continue to take her to dance classes. The man did this, and later asked the girl to recommend some YouTube videos to help him improve his dancing. She had suggested private lessons, but told him she didn't teach private, and then, according to the lawsuit, avoided the man for the next week. Which then led to the man doing what is unsurprising because he thought he was in the wrong, writing a 3-page letter apologising for being awkward around her, expressing sincere feelings for her, and asking her what, if anything, she wanted from plaintiff. Now, during this rather pointless deposition about him having power of authority over her, Andy Hayes, Mizzou's Assistant Vice-Chancellor for Civil Rights in Title IX, was asked some questions. Question: is asking someone out on a date a course of conduct on the basis of sex? Yes. So you could ask someone out on a date with a legitimate purpose and not fall within this rule, is that correct? You could. Okay. What I'm trying to get at here is a student reading this policy, how did they know what a legitimate purpose within the meaning of the rule? Well, I'm going to speculate, but if they wanted it clarified, they could call my office. They could ask someone about it if they need clarification. I don't know that many students read the rules before they take action, which does basically summarise the point of not needing to have a legitimate purpose to ask someone out on a date. If they don't know they're legitimately asking someone out, they can then call the school's Title IX office to find out. We need consent forms, don't we? On the screen now are the remaining questions asked that were provided for the sake of clarification. As far as I'm concerned, and especially with John being suspended for his interactions with Jane and subsequently sued, this is a damning statement for how colleges interact on the basis of using Title IX to get rid of someone. Now, Mizzou have tried to dismiss the lawsuit, but they have failed, and it has been upheld. Now, I do want to be absolutely clear. While the title does imply because he's a bigger man, that's not the case at all. It's predicated on the assumption that because he's an academic, it's an appeal to authority. They're trying to use that as the excuse, but it has been reported by many outlets as that, as him being bigger because he be man, and biologically bigger. It's nice to see long dead fallacies still crop their ugly head. Hi Poffit, I know you're there. I saw your comments on Undead Meowth's channel. I'll deal later. Anyway, I hope everyone has a lovely Wednesday, and thank you all for listening.